Hello and welcome to the brownmundepodcast, the podcast that is all about Manchester United and the fans across the globe. I'm your host, Harps, and I've got today with me, Afzal. How you doing, bud?
All good, man. Can't complain. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad, man. Always good when I'm with the boys, with the Brown Munde. Aki, you're here with us too as well.
Yeah,
How's it going?
I'm good. I'm just I'm good.
Good. You have to be wanting good. Say good again. Ted, you're here with us as well. Thank you.
Yeah, feeling good.
Feeling good, yeah. Early morning rise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, did the workout
ready to work, eh?
Yeah, ready to hit the day, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. And Riz is here with us as well. Riz, how you doing, bro?
All good. How are you guys? It's not early morning for me. I'm in Saudi today. I'm in Riyadh, so mid-morning.
I was gonna say, yeah, a bit early for you. I mean, you've had your party and things like that already, yeah.
All done, bro.
All done. Just ready for the podcast. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for boys. Yeah, like I said, this podcast is all about Manchester United. However, it's a bit more than that as well. We are dedicated for this platform to be representing the underrepresented voices across the globe, whether that is from Asia, the Middle East, Africa, North America, all across the globe. All fans from any teams are welcome. And on that subject, what I'm going to start with talking today, guys, is I think most of us, if not all of us, have listened to that interview with Dele this week with Gary Neville, with mental health issues and things of that nature. I really just wanted to get your opinions on that and, how you feel, in terms of him coming out, explaining what he's gone through. Boys, what's your take on that?
Yeah, obviously really sad to listen to, really sad to hear. Obviously it brought a tear to my eye when I listened to the poor guy. He went through hell as a kid. And then, for me, it just goes to show a lot of these footballers, even at our club, like Harry Maguire, gets so much abuse. Nobody knows what goes on behind their story. Yeah, the personal story. You always see them as the footballer. You don't see them as the human being, generally speaking. And I think there's Twitter and the social media overall, it's made up for trolls. Let's be honest. We've all had it amongst us as well, right? People make an account, one follower, come on, give a whole heap of abuse and deactivate themselves. You got to think a little bit more about the human being. Yeah, the footballers. And everyone's saying, oh, he's shit, he's this, he's that, he's whatever, he's fallen off a cliff, he was on his own hype early on. You don't know what somebody's going through. So for me, that's not that I needed to know that, but it's another lesson, another wake-up call to just say we've got to be cognizant of all of that, when we talk about players, because they're listening, they're listening online and it affects their mental health. So, fair play to him. Took bravery to come out and talk about that with the world. So yeah, very sad. But hopefully he can use this now to sort of kick on.
Yeah, like you said, it's unfortunate. But you know what? It's brave of him, obviously, to come out because, as I said, there is a stigma, isn't there? Especially amongst men, when they've gone through the trauma or mental health issues, they don't talk about it. There's a stigma attached that they're going to get judged in a certain way. It's good that we've had players like Dele, even previously Jesse Lingard as well, who've come out and spoken about it. It should obviously happen a bit more. Ted, I think you was going to say something.
Yeah, I think it boils down to just sometimes a bit of logic needs to put in play. When a player's hit certain levels, certain highs, certain levels in the football game, you start to think to yourself, how can they drop off so much? And then think there's a drop off, then there's completely not even making it into the team, not even making it into the squad, and something just doesn't feel right. And I remember when Ali burst onto the scene, he was, he was really turning a lot of heads, and the fact that Sir Alex Ferguson said such high praise about him, tells you what people really thought about him in the game. And obviously, I think Ferguson probably knew a little bit about him and his upbringing, I reckon, because Ferguson seemed to knew everything. But it just goes to show, you know what I mean? We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And I think media, they don't help either. And I think society now, we're just so quick to judge and just jump on the bandwagon. And then fucking we all fucking think we've become football experts, coaches, got our
Guys,
badges
sorry,
overnight.
Ted, sorry about that. Sorry. If you heard any swearing, we apologise. Obviously, we want to keep this one clean.
My apologies, sorry about that.
Yes,
but we all think that we've become football experts overnight. So it's just unfortunate, but it just goes to show that we need to show a bit of patience and not judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, like you said, I think as fans, we want to just see, you know, the player playing. It's almost like how can I put it? You know, as a child, you've got your toys, you've got your wrestling figures or whatever, and you're just throwing them around and you do whatever you want to. We almost perceive that the players are ours, and you know, and if they're not performing, we can do whatever we want. We can shout at them, we can berate them, we can, swear at them. You know, it's almost like, you know, as though we own them, and they're just a piece of object and not a real life person. They almost take reality out of it. But then you've also got people on the other side as well who will say, well, you know, he gets paid hundreds and £1,000s a week. You know, why should he not be performing? You know, he's a top elite, an elite athlete. Well, you know, surely he's got the best people in place. You know, he shouldn't be going through this. He shouldn't have to. You know, he needs to get over this.
I think the thing is the times have changed significantly. I mean, other footballers might come out and say, you know, in our day it weren't like this, but equally at the same time there were so many hidden issues there that we weren't aware of. Where there was, like, for example, now the big thing that's coming out in the football world is these sleeping pills, because it's a form of escape, and obviously it's a form of addiction. I think Paul Merson come out with a gambling addiction. As far as I know, it's really, really common in the game, where like a load of these ex-footballers have either pissed it all away, or that was sort of like their only go-to at weekends, because they couldn't really drink or do anything like that. So it was their form of escapism. And I think if them old senior players look back, they would have seen a lot of issues that they probably would have liked to think, hang on, there's a bit of player protection here, and you know, they can talk to someone. So I think it also stems from the times as well.
Also, I think social media has really magnified the problem, you know, because how many times have you felt yourselves, guys, and how many times you see people we know on social media saying, I'm taking a break from Twitter for a few days? And having to take a break from Twitter or social media shows you that it's constantly in your life and messing with it. When social media first came about, people thought it was a good thing. It's a way to escape. Actually, it's escaping to a world where, you know, you get even more stress, even more stuff put onto your minds. And actually, you know, most of the listeners on this podcast are from all corners of the globe, you know, brownmunde, right? From all corners of the world, where it's still very taboo. Here, we're in the UK, we're very lucky that everyone's getting the support, the awareness and everything is around this topic. But imagine being from, I'm speaking of Pakistan, India, Mexico, right? These guys aren't talking about mental health and how important it is and how it's important to talk. You know, Ted mentioned earlier on, he said real men talk, right? Over there, they'll I bet you, I know this from Pakistan and India, they'll say real men don't talk about that stuff. Be a man, don't talk about that. So, you know, hopefully there's a lot of people that are listening to this podcast that can relate to it and you know, say, yeah, you can talk, man. Talk to each other, talk to your families. It's not
100% Riz, man. I echo that. You know, across the globe, you know, we've all gone, you know, back home. You know, we see things ourselves. You know, we've got cousins or family. You know, not just men, obviously, ladies as well. You know, we need to talk. And you know, and on that as well, especially in the UK, if anybody is going through any things that they do want to talk, you know, they feel that they can't reach out to anybody, family members or friends, there are places where you can reach out. So, we do have the Samaritans charity, where you can call 116-123. There's also an organisation called Shout, where you can text 85258. And, we've also got a charity as well, which is called mind.org.uk. And their telephone number is 0300 123 3393. Look, if you are going through these mental issues and you just feel that you can't reach out to even these charities, and you're listening to us, please get in touch with us. We're there for everyone. We try and be there for everyone, either in DMs. We're on all the socials, whether that's on Twitter, Instagram, Threads. It's at brownmunde PC. So, and even individually, even if you need to get in touch with us individuals, I won't throw all the handles on here. We'll try and put it on the podcast or on YouTube, but, you can find us on Twitter. But yeah, look, guys, if anybody is going through anything, we're here for you. I think moving on from there as well, from Dele, I think, which was quite important yesterday, we also had the Benjamin Mendy case where he was found not guilty. Again, I was on social media when I was reading, this news, and just the reaction, especially, to me, Gary Cottrell, I'm just going to have to call it out. I wasn't going to talk about him at the present moment in time, but I just feel that I've got to as well. And, he was, Benjamin Mendy comes out in court case. He's had a court case for 3 years running. He's, missed playing football for 3 years. He's had, dogs abuse throughout, nobody even knowing what's actually happened. And then you got people like Gary Cottrell coming through asking him, what's next? Are you going to play football? You're thinking, mate, he's just gone through a massive trauma. Well, when I say trauma, he's gone through, an experience where no man should have to go through.
Is it Gary Cottrell who doorstepped Eric Ten Hag at the Palace game?
That's correct.
And he was like, Eric, your security assaulting me doesn't look good. And and then I'm pretty sure he went to the Ajax training ground as well, right? When the news came out that Eric would be the next United manager.
And I think Eric drove past him as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he drove past him and he sort of tried to jog after the car a little bit. But on the subject of Benjamin Mendy, there was Gary Cottrell who pestered him, and there was another journalist, what looked like an Asian fella, and he says to him, "Are you going to play football again, bro?" And Mendy didn't reply, and that journalist respected that, and he stepped away. Gary Cottrell stuck on him, and you just think, for what this man's been through, to eventually now have been in the eyes of the law, because I know that's what everyone likes to look at these days. In the eyes of the law, he is innocent of all 10 charges, I heard. And you just think, what happens now? What happens to these women? Is there some sort of slander, libel, something like that? Because he's lost 3 years of his life, and he's still young, right? He's now got to rebuild his entire life, rebuild his entire image. And as a footballer, who's going to touch him in the Prem in Europe? I don't get it. And is this becoming a thing now where, I think we said it on a previous podcast, Harps mentioned women are just going to think, oh yeah, if I accuse a footballer of this is how I get him back. No, that's not right. Obviously, if the accusations are true, then that footballer should face the consequences of that. But in this case, what happens to Mendy now? What happens going forward?
I think it will be interesting to see how Man City and how potentially other clubs view Mendy and how they deal with it.
Well, Kedge, the thing is, with Man City, his contract's expired in July, 1st of July.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from that point of view, City, when he got arrested as well, City didn't even release a statement.
Yeah.
So they've left it how it is. And I don't think they're going to even touch on the subject.
Yeah.
For me, Mendy, I think it's more than him being a footballer, but more as an individual,
Hmm.
because it's like who's going to help him out, as in mentally as well, because no one knows what he's been through. Obviously, he probably knows that he was innocent. His team knows that he was innocent. He's gone through all these years, as in trying to prove it as well, and now he's proved it.
Yeah.
What happens to the females? What happens to him? Members Defy, he basically touched on it really well, and he goes, all cases dismissed. What are we doing now? Who is going to help his brother heal? Who's going to be responsible for the damage on his name?
I think I don't think there's any sort of real fix really. I think whatever's done's done now, and I think it's just up to sort of like see what happens in the future going forward with him. I think Man City do have sort of like a duty of care, so it'll be interesting to see if they do make a statement now, regardless of him being a free agent or not. The fact that they haven't made any sort of statement, I think they made an initial statement when it first come out, and I think since then nothing really much has been said. But I do feel as a club that they've still got a duty of care to follow up on that or make some form of press release surrounding it. But only time will tell on that one. But I think that the wider issue in terms of how he's been treated, the damage caused, I think it's a problem across the board, and we could link it into other players who are being accused now. And it's just a sad state of affairs. It's the current world we live in, and it's just very misfortunate. I think the reality is the way football was going. In situations like this, you're going to see more and more of these footballers, because they have a short career, living lives like just literally very isolated and becoming very introverted in their own ways.
I think City released a couple of statements.
They did,
yeah. They were a little bit of a Sherlock type statements, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the initial statement was when he first got charged or arrested. He says that the club can confirm that he's been charged by police. He's been suspended pending an investigation. Then I think they recently did one that said, he's been found not guilty of the 7 charges. And obviously now I don't think they're going to release one because he's no longer their player, because his contract's expired. He's still a young player, like we said before. He's 29. He's turning 29 on the 17th of July. So he is, I hope the guy, I got into, obviously this is top talk of the town on Twitter. And there's still people saying, oh, not guilty doesn't mean he's innocent. Well, I'm sorry, but in the law of the land, it does. In the law of the land, it does mean that. Now, if you want to go into some mystical Meg type of a scenario where you're dreaming that you were in the room, elevated in the corner and watched everything that went on, and you know more than all the evidence and the juries that sat through this, then, big up to you, man. You've got some supernatural skills. But for me, 10 counts. You could have something that is not guilty, and there could be, a technicality you get off on one. It's 10 independent cases. Yeah. And also, he's spent time in jail. What I hope, just to end this topic from my point and move on, is I hope the guy gets, the chance in Saudi. They're throwing money at people. The guy's lost all his sponsorships for the last 3 years. I hope he gets a chance now to recuperate that, get his life back on track. And I can see him personally, lads. I can see him ending up in the Saudi league.
Yeah, same. I was going to mention that for him to get a big payout now in Saudi would be unbelievable. And you know what? It would actually shut up a lot of people. Apologies for my words. But it would actually shut up a lot of people. And I actually want that to happen now, because he's actually proved a lot of people wrong. And the fact that he's 10 cases, you know what I mean? He's gone through a lot. It's not just 1 or 2. If you look at it from a Greenwood perspective, he was out. He wasn't in prison. This guy was in prison. And I do hope he gets a big payout now. Mendy.
Yeah, I think in regards to Mendy, just finishing up on there. I mean, yeah, money. I mean, we will go touch on to the Saudi league as well, but I think what you can never take with you is money when you do leave this earth. I always have the feeling of, when we do leave this earth, what is the perception of yourself amongst people? Was he a good person? Was he not a good person? And I think, unfortunately for Mendy, he's now going to be stuck with a stigma, even though he's been proven innocent. And, I think there's something that needs to be done in regards to that. And it shouldn't just fall on Benjamin Mendy as well. It should fall on either the football community and, the people around as well. But look, talking about the Saudi League, I think I'm going to start with you, Reece. No one better, because you're in Riyadh as we speak as well. What's happening out there, man? What's happening?
Obviously, the people here that I know on the ground through work, just as fans, are super excited by it. They reckon, obviously, Saudi want to make a move for the 2030 or the 2034 World Cup. So that's a big hype coming around that. Look, I think they've got a lot of money, billions and billions and billions, something close to 20 billion to invest in this in the next couple of years, 2-3 years. That's a shed load of money, and it's shared between the clubs. So I think, I got a feeling these guys are going to get it right. MLS, if you compare it to the American League, those guys have never really, let's be honest, never really been able to make it big at a global level, right? Partly because they call it soccer, but that's a topic for another day. But they've never really been able to make it big. I think Saudi will, because I think Saudi are attracting the right players. They're still in the right time zone. So it's only 2 hours. For me, I'm 2 hours at the moment ahead of the UK, so it's a similar time zone. And I think there could be, they could eventually, and I'm not talking about next year or the year after, but I'd say next half a decade to a decade, I think Saudi might well be the league or the organizers that start this so-called Super League up, I genuinely think so.
Don't go back there, man. Don't go back there.
Riz, I was going to ask a question, actually. I mean, like I said, I know you, like Harp said, alluded to earlier, you obviously are there and you probably have a bit more exposure and people are talking about it a bit more over there as well. But I heard the other day that, Ronaldo's current club, I heard that they're currently on a transfer ban at the moment from signing new players. Is that just a one-off or an individual club, or is that something that's expected for other clubs there, or is that for more of a breach of sort of like their financial regulations?
You know what? Honestly, I don't know about that. If I'm honest, I've not really discussed that with anybody. I've read it on Twitter that they're on a transfer ban. Just people.
I think they missed a payment to Leicester or something for one of their players that they bought from there. So okay. It was just a little breach rather than anything more sinister than that.
I think definitely from a financial point of view, in terms of money talks and stuff, I definitely think that they are the powerhouse. They do have literally so much behind them, and they could potentially take a hell of a lot of players over. And you know what, in terms of what you're saying about the bid, I can see them winning it if they are going for something like that. And you know what, some of these players are not just going to make good financial decisions, they're going to make absolutely whirlwind big life decisions for their future generations. I mean, the money involved is just astronomical. So do you know what, fair play to them. So if they need
what's the difference between the Saudi League and what the Chinese League were doing? Because I remember they were one of the first ones to throw lots of money at players and that's,
For me, I'll give you my anecdotal thoughts on that. I think with China, it's just so far on the other side of the world, time zone wise and everything. It was never going to make it in, if I put this in inverted commas, not necessarily inverted commas, factual, the established football super zones in the world, Europe, and South America. Obviously, players from there come to Europe. For me, I think China was just never gonna be it. I
think with China though, it was the clubs that were investing in players, whereas I think with Saudi it's the whole country as well. I think they put down 20 billion or something.
Yeah, 20 billion across 3 years, I think.
Yeah, so I think if the whole country is behind it and trying to build the league up, that's somewhat different to just the clubs trying to buy players in and
same with America. Money. Hang on, Akil.
Yeah.
Yeah, Afsal, you were going to say something, bro.
Yeah. So the thing about the Chinese, didn't the Chinese government impose like 100% super tax on these transfers? and that's why China sort of cut back on everything. Because I remember the lad from Chelsea, Oscar, yeah, he went and he did an interview, and someone was like, "Oh, you're only 20 something, you've not got too much to show in terms of trophies." And in this interview, he said something that I found a bit arrogant at the time, but then as I've obviously got older and matured, I sort of understood it more. And he's like, my kids are not going to care whether or not I won a World Cup or a Champions League. They're going to care about what I've left them in terms of obviously an inheritance, and have I set them up in life? Have I put them through the good schools and all this sort of stuff?
Yeah.
And I just thought that resonated, because obviously we do get a lot of footballers now that are all about the money, but there's money in the Premier League. There's just astronomical money in Saudi.
Yeah,
I was missing from these deals.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second. Let me just put it from a different point of view. All these footballers now, traditionally, and what's been going on for years and years, is they have their career, and then they hit the end of their career, or they're starting to fade off. And you've seen it with, like, Beckham, Gerrard, or whatnot. And then they end up going to America or even China and stuff like that, and they look for that payday. And I know it's a silly example, but then I sometimes look at a silly example being of those football players that you just mentioned, like the Oscar, Hulk, and all those other players. Some of them were very young, but some of them were quite senior, going towards the end of their career. But then you look at Mbappe right now, what he is currently being offered and on at PSG, right? They knew that they wanted to keep him, and even that year or 2 year extension that he did, the money that he's on, 1-2 million a week, something like that is going to potentially set up 8 to 10 generations of his family and friends potentially, and that is significantly life changing. Why can't he do it that way and say, you know what, I've won several league titles, I've won a World Cup, I'm a part of a brilliant French team, and you know what, in a couple of years, I'll go to Real Madrid, and I probably will go on to win the Champions League, whether it's Real Madrid, whether it's Man United, whether it's Man City, so forth. What is there a problem with players like that? Looking at it from that point of view, I look at people like Haaland and the way his career is. He's already openly talked about how, he probably doesn't see himself staying at City for longer than 5 years. He potentially will go out around Europe and stuff. And maybe these footballers are just thinking a bit more long term now instead of short term, because some of these football players, I mean, it sounds another daft example, but you look at Michael Richards. I think financially he blew a lot of money early on in his career. That's probably why you see him on every single talk show, every single sort of radio show, pundit show, because he's realised, hang on a minute, I didn't actually think long term here. And I think fair play to some of these guys who are making a living. And if it weren't football, if it was a different form of career, we'd still be saying, yeah, fair play, whether it be an investment banker or so forth. You've got to do what's right for you and your family, haven't you?
Yeah, you know what, though? A third angle I want to put on it, Tej. Why would... I'll take that Oscar one. I respect his opinions and why he did it. Get that. But even playing for Chelsea, and he was on, 100, 150 grand a week there, he could set his generations up with that as well. It's about how you invest that money. Right? There's the people around you, the right people around you that are helping you invest that money right. Because if they're not, then even the money in China you're going to waste, you know what I mean? So for me, it's enough. Like, you're getting millions a year right now, right? If you put, let's say, 10 million pounds worth of properties, making it up, right? And you're making, let's say, £100,000 a year on a month on income from the rent. That's going to be enough for your families, right? And you do that again the next year, over a 10-year period. Let's say half the money you invest that you've made from your career, you're making millions every month from that. And that's equity is only going to go up, right? From properties. So it's about how you invest it. It's not as a footballer.
I agree. And I think it boils down to that duty of care thing we spoke about a little bit earlier with the mental health. It all links in: the clubs, the player protection. It all needs to stem in terms of, what sort of, where they're investing their money, how much should the club be taking into investing that money for them into savings, long-term investments. And I think that also will play a big part in it, because I think once the club has a full understanding of what that player is doing on and off the pitch, it enables them to protect them, guide them, give them the right advice. And you know what? There's a few things. I know we're talking strictly on Saudi, but I think it's that the presenter, Sky Sports, that Hayley McQueen, I think it's her dad. She talked about how, you know, other the Premier League and other people around him didn't necessarily support him in later on in his life when he had dementia and stuff like that. And there is a little bit of lack of that duty of care with these players later on in their career. And I think it all stems into this whole thing about money and what the player has to do long term as well.
I mean, look at Carlos Tevez. So, well, he went to China. He even said it. He goes, "I made millions whilst there for like a few months, but I actually went there for a holiday, and he didn't even. I don't think he performed really well. I think he put on a bit of weight as well. So I mean, for me, the way I see it is, I think China was a bit of a hit or miss. With America, MLS, I think that's more of a brand, as in get the biggest name out there. Let's take it from there. Whereas with Saudi, I see this in a different perspective because I think Saudi also want to host the World Cup. They also want to have the Confederations Cup there, I think. Or is that, I think the next one they want to have it. They want to actually achieve things, Saudi.
One thing I will say definitely about the Saudi League is I'm surprised at some of the younger players going on. I am really shocked at some of them going on. A few of the players that they've already gone already, I'm thinking, geez, and the fees that they've gone for, it ain't even small. These are big fees. I mean, if you look at Chelsea, some of the players they've offloaded and how much they've actually brought in terms of money, it's not bad business from Chelsea, is it?
I mean,
is it fair to say, if a footballer at that young age goes to the Saudi League right now, they're not really a serious footballer you'd want at your club. They're only in it for the money.
To me, I think you've got to look at the individual and where they come from. Because, say, they come from Brazil, where a lot of these, you know, I can never say the word, but they've come, favelas, what is it?
Favelas.
Yeah, you know, from the bend, basically, you know, and they don't grow up with much money. They don't have, you know, shoes even when they start playing football when they begin with. You know, a lot of their dreams, I think Anthony's mentioned it a couple of times, is just to get their family out of that. And, you know, they've seen that hardship where they've had to sometimes not even go to school. They've got to go to work at the age of 6, 7, you know, play football on the side and then, you know, get scouted, then they move on. So, you know, I think that kind of thing, I don't think we as people in the West who are fortunate enough to have had some kind of money. I think that's the part of things that we do, you know, we can't always relate to. Only these individuals who've walked that path can. But also going on to Saudi, I think just my opinion on Saudi, I think it's all going good, all well. Reece, what time is it there, did you say? I think you said it's around about...
It's 10:15. It's just turned 11 a.m. here.
10, 11 o'clock, yeah. What's the temperature there?
At the moment, it's 41, but you know what? It doesn't feel hot. I mean, I'm climatized. It's not as hot as Dubai.
That's the thing that I know one of the other brownmunde, Yusuf, he's in Bahrain, and he was saying yesterday it was 50 degrees. Now, I know when these players are going to probably be playing will be probably more like on the evenings, more likely than not. But I think one of the reasons why Qatar had moved, World Cup would move from the summer to the winter period, you know, November, December time, was the temperature cooling. I just don't know how, especially the players from Europe, are going to acclimatise playing in the Saudi League in those temperatures.
I think some of the stadiums, though, will have some conditions in that sense. I think Qatar had it as well. I'm just thinking of it from, like, I do get what you're saying, as in not when they're playing football, but when they're just out chilling or whatever. But I think it'll just be... I think playing football is different from... I think training ground will be different from as well. There would be conditions, but...
I mean, I agree there. I think that is one to look at. I mean, especially as the Brits. I mean, especially the British players as well. They do go over as well. I mean, playing in 41 degrees is going to be intense. You know what I mean? And I just don't think some of the players are conditioned for it. I think the players from Brazil, Spain may be easily accustomed to it and may adjust. But even then, playing in them sort of degrees of heat is just you've got to be you got to be a particular type of player, built differently. And I know I certainly wouldn't be able to do it. Harps, you definitely wouldn't be able to do it. I know you wouldn't, but yeah.
But you know what, though, guys, the stadiums here are built in a way that factors that in. At the pitch level, there is, for want of a better phrase, massive air conditioning sort of built-in fans blasting the pitch. So there's cool air coming onto the pitch.
And this is the thing, though, for me, Riz, it's like it's so what's the word? It's synthetic. It's just not natural. How can I put it? Like, do you know what I mean? You can be blowing air conditioning and things of that nature. And look, I don't know the answer to this question, and you know, obviously, I can only talk about experience when you go to hot places and then you go into air conditioning and you go back out. Do you know what I mean? I think for me, I think the pull of the money is massive, and I think that's why a lot of people have gone. And I think obviously Saudi having to do that because, you know, they've not got much more else at this present moment of time. However, obviously, Riz, you're in Riyadh, and I think even you've mentioned before how Saudi are so now different, are more like Dubai, the younger version of Dubai. So the lifestyle is going to be totally different as well.
Yeah, Riyadh especially has changed so much from 5 years ago when I used to visit. It was more along the lines of, still not as bad as, but more along the lines of what you used to hear in the English press around Saudi being suppressed for women and stuff like that. Complete change now. Nothing like that, you know. So women are dressed how they want. They can go out on their own. They can go out with friends that are males that are not married. You don't have to dress fully clothed. Those that want to dress fully clothed, by fully clothed, I mean the abaya, the full outfit that the woman wears. They don't have to go out wearing that by law. If a woman wants to, more than happy to. If the woman doesn't want to, she doesn't have to. So also one thing I want to highlight is in the winter, it's freezing here. It's really cold. You have to come here in the winter. I bring a coat, bring the jumpers, because it can get really cold.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, you know, obviously however long the season's going to be, 9-10 months or whatever like that. But you know what, Riz, before just moving on, great point that you just put on there in terms of the lifestyle now changing as well. And I think we will have another topic with some of the boys from the Middle East as well. But with the guys from the West now coming, you know, what do you think that changes? Obviously, I think MBS is a massive part of that change. I'm not going to talk about anything else, what's gone on and what, you know, all these human rights things. I'm just talking about MBS himself and what they're trying to achieve, how they're integrating in from the Western society. And although the Western society are no beacon of human rights or anything like that, but what can you see that change? You know, is it because they're out there more in the West now, the likes of MBS, you know, and
I think it's all to do with, obviously it's to do with politics. MBS is obviously the crown prince. He will be the future king of the country. But he's very much driving that truck now anyway, you know. I think MBS has got in terms of the country, he's got a very forward-thinking plan. There's a 2030 vision that Saudi talk about, and they want to completely transform the country to be pioneers of the world in all respects, from technology to digital innovation to, I think you heard maybe a couple of years ago, Sally, was it, that AI robot that they created in Saudi? And she did an interview live on TV, that AI robot, right? So they're the of innovation. I would say, and this is the Riz opinion, but it's quite well known, but I'll just put this out there, it's the Riz opinion based on what I see. They want to be bigger and better than Dubai is. Dubai, UAE is a small country. The United Arab Emirates is a very small country. I think the population is 10 million, and 9 million of them are expats. The population of Saudi Arabia is about 35 million, predominantly locals, right? So they want to prosper their own people. They used to give all citizens money, and they used to chill at home, spend that money. They stopped that about 2 years ago. You have to go out, you have to earn your own money.
So as a Saudi national, you used to get money from the government?
You used to get money from the government, yeah. Right. So there was this whole ego aspect around around people, right? And not just there, but in right across GCC to happen. But Saudi stopped that. 50% of your workforce has to be females now, have to be locals, females.
Wow. Okay.
So the laws have changed drastically, to drive that vision of 2030.
And that's all MBS, isn't it? MBS self.
All MBS, 100%
Yeah.
by MBS.
But I think, although it's MBS, but I think he's obviously a younger generation who's looked at the. I'm going to keep referring to the West, but he's obviously.
And that's the thing, though, because I think it's MBS who's that young figure that's come out, and he's actually pushing a lot of things. If you look at the projects he's actually come out with as well, I think it's the Neon project, one of them.
Mad, crazy.
That is crazy. There's a lot of, and if you compare that to what Dubai have done and what Dubai want to do as well, I think Saudi are on another level. On another level.
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to touch on it too much because I think this is a great subject, and I think we do need to touch upon it further, and we will do, especially on the brownmunde podcast. Just before I move on to the next one and then finish up, and I think this is another reason why we want Qatar at United as well, bringing it back to Manchester United. I think somebody like Sheikh Jassim, I think obviously the Amir is quite young. He's obviously studied over here as well. We're just trying to integrate what we've got here. Some of the great things that are in the West are, into the Middle East as well, but keep their principles, which are also great as well. I know when I go out to the Middle East, I feel a lot more safer at 1 o'clock in the night than I do walking down London or the West Midlands at the same time as well. So, but I think it was you, Ted, touched upon it earlier as well, and I just can't get away from it, man. Saudi and Chelsea links.
It's something I think Riz is probably the man. I want to hear Riz's opinion on. I definitely feel like there's definitely something a little bit suspicious there, but at the same time, if it was our club's owners, yes, I'd be a bit wary. But I'm thinking, you know what, considering where they were last year, and my family, I've got family of Chelsea fans, and I was saying, dude, I think your club in a bad way here. I said, you guys have spent a fortune on players. How the hell are you going to get them off, especially on these long-term contracts? And I'll be honest with you, I've got a little message the other day. They're already blowing that theory out the window already, aren't they?
Yeah, Ted, I actually had the same conversation before, obviously, the players went to Saudi, because one of my cousins, he's a massive Chelsea fan, and I kept asking the same question. You've got a lot of dead wood. You need to get rid of them, but who's going to sign them and on what wages? Yeah. All I saw links on Twitter was literally just Saudi, and I'm just thinking, like, what is going on?
But there's a few undisclosed fees. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I know.
They've not announced what they are and stuff.
What I said to him
makes me a bit suspicious.
So the thing is, what I said to my mate, my cousin, was that if you look at it from that perspective, no fees been discussed. Contract's been offered. Next step is the player being signed. Yeah. So, obviously, where's the fee? How much is it? The wages and everything.
I think Chelsea have reported some fees, probably just on the books.
Yeah.
Because didn't they clear up like 200 million in like 2 days?
Yeah.
Just from
so what are we saying here? Riz, I think Ted, you want to?
I don't think they can.
What are the links? What are the links between Chelsea and Saudi? Why are Chelsea getting all the great, quote unquote, great deals?
I don't think, by the way, that they're not disclosing them. Obviously, on the paper, they have to for financial fair play. It's just that the public or the PR, the statement, they're just not releasing them to Joe blogs like you and me.
Yeah,
I think that I don't know anything specific or different than you guys about this. I think there's a link between the company that Todd Bowley owns, or
Clear Lake Capital. That's the main company that own Chelsea.
And I think there's investment from Saudi into that investment corporation. So I think they own a big chunk of shares of that, or a chunk of shares of that. The word big, take that off my state. They own a chunk of shares of that company. So I'm speculating, rather than knowing anything here, that there's probably a deal that, look, Saudi wanted to do the league anyway. They own part of that investment firm. Guys, help us out. You want to promote your league. There's a win-win situation. Go and take a pick of the players that we've got from this group. And we put that on the books and clear our financial fair play in the West. That's my speculation on it. Simple as.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that though, I mean, I didn't make this statement, but like I said, my family member did, but he said it quite loosely. He may be a bit of joking behind it. But if you look at Man City being investigated now for their breach of the financial fair play, and eventually, I do think that they will get penalised for it. I think something bad will. I think they will be significantly punished. But let's just say if Chelsea are doing that, and there is some sort of interlink there, and they are in bed with each other, and there is some form of, transactional sort of money moving around in terms of backhanded deals. It's technically fraudulent, and it's technically a form of laundering money. If we're being completely honest, I use them words and I say them not to be accusing people here, but let's be honest. There is a form of it probably linked to it, and if that is the case, surely the Premier League have come down on them, aren't they?
You know what though, Ted?
Yeah,
they have to prove it. The Premier League have to prove it, firstly, and the second thing, I say this in all walks of life. I'm not defending it. I'm not saying it's correct. I don't believe so. But corruption happens day in, day out. Even in the UK government, right? It's just more eloquent about it than a Pakistani government, for example, right? Right? They're just more eloquent about it and more polished about it, and they own the world media that hides a lot of it for them. We have to prove it.
I think it's more politics, isn't it?
Yeah, but insider trading, Akil, we was, everyone's saying, oh, you can't do that in a Man United takeover. That's insider trading. Yeah, but again, my word is prove they did it. You can have a verbal conversation that's not recorded that you can't prove. But insider trading happens day in, day out. A lot of the times it doesn't get caught. When it does, it becomes a big thing and people go to jail and all of that stuff. But a lot of the times it doesn't people don't get caught. It happens all the time, man. So prove
the only time that happens is when somebody's not got the deal that they wanted. Then they make a bigger deal out of it, and then they try and go in other areas. And I think in terms of the Saudi and the Chelsea links, I think there are obviously clear links there. I think it doesn't take much investigation to see what those links are. But you know what? I think it's just because we're not Chelsea fans. I think that's why we're so up against it. I think if it's our club doing it, like you said, is there any form of wrongdoing here? Probably not. No, there's two transactions going on. It's all above board. A team from Saudi want Chelsea players, and they're getting them.
It's just frustrating from a Man United point of view, because I think to myself, I look at the Napoli striker, and I think, you know what, it's Chelsea are one of the clubs, because of their silly spending, the way they've been throwing money about last year. It's just literally priced him out over the 100 million mark, and he is a good future prospect. But I'm thinking, would he have been worth that maybe 2 years ago? Probably not. And you know what? It's because of Chelsea's ridiculous signings that they've made, and it just literally inflates the whole market.
That's also due to Napoli having one badass negotiation team. Like, they do not budge.
Apologies again about the language.
Yeah, apologies about the language.
Yeah, no, I think certain clubs are handling their business really well, but again, it links into Caicedo. I think he probably could go Chelsea now, because again, like I said, everything's gone quiet on his point of view. It was Arsenal, it was other clubs, but it doesn't look like Man United are showing much interest now in him. So I think Chelsea could be a club there. But again, how much is he going to be worth? Is he worth 100 million? Do you know what I mean? So it's a lot of money we're talking. But go back to the Chelsea links to Saudi and stuff. On the other flip side of it, you got to say, you know what, fair play to the new owner for turning it around if he does. Because if he does turn it around within 1 year failure, well, it was a failure last year, let's be honest. He turns it around. He's got Pochettino in now. And you know what? He's offloaded a load of old players. He's got some young players coming through, some very good talented players. And if he gets time and patience, then why not? They could potentially turn it around. And we could all look at him and thinking, actually, you know what? He's actually done it the other way around. He's spent big. He's offloaded. And actually, you know what? He's actually turned it around. So only time will tell. But I woke up this morning reading a lot on the fact that, slightly off topic, other players going to Saudi, like Jordan Henderson, and I kind of want him to go. Not that I don't think think he's that much of a difference, but I just think it'll mean that Liverpool's midfield will massively suffer, and I really hope he does go to Saudi now for £700,000 a week, and I think he's 29, 30, something like that. No, 31, something like that. So I think fair play if he does go. It's a significant amount of money, and should hopefully more of a disadvantage.
I know, Akil, I know you got a question, but just before you just ask that question, Jordan Henderson, I think he was very for the LGBTQ movement, wasn't he, around the World Cup in Qatar, and he had a lot of views, and now he's going to Saudi. Go on, sorry, Akil.
Yeah, so the question that I wanted to ask was about Chelsea. Do we think Chelsea are going to be finishing in the top 4, top 6, top 8? Because they've got Pochettino as manager.
Top 6.
I think it will all depend upon the next few weeks, because again, a lot of people haven't done their transfer business. A lot of people haven't. Like I said, let's just say Jordan Henderson does go from Liverpool. All of a sudden, you've got a massive hole in Liverpool's midfield. And by the way, he's 33. I made that mistake. Sorry about that. And I'm thinking, yeah, he's 33. He's always a little bit injured and stuff, but he's a significant player for them. And you know what? He's obviously a good leader for them as well. So I think all of a sudden, then it doesn't put Liverpool in the driving position that a lot of people are thinking, because they've got a massive hole. They've lost qatar, Oxlade-Chamberlain, him. And Fabinho's talked about going as well. So I think that will also lessen their chance at the top 4. And then you look at Arsenal, really, have they really lost anyone except Granit Xhaka? And they potentially brought two good players coming in. So I think Arsenal will be there. I think United, again, it depends on if these 2-3 other players over the line. I think United could be, they've got a new striker now in Greenwood. I think United will be there. I think Man City's a given. And then, you know what I mean? So I just don't think you can write off Newcastle. I really don't.
So, I mean, you mentioned Greenwood. Are we saying he's going to come back into the team?
I think it's obvious now. I think everything is telling me that he's going to stay at the club, and he's just going to be slowly embedded back into the first team. That's everything I can see. I think it makes more logical sense from the club. Why they're going to go out and spend a load of money on another marquee signing at the moment when they know they can't get it. They've got someone who they didn't have for a whole year and a bit. So they're thinking, you know what, bring this guy in. If they do get the Atalanta striker as well, they've got the young lad as well there. I think it makes more sense business financially as well. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one in regards to Greenwood. Look, guys, I think a great point to end it there. I think it's been a great podcast today, boys. Great conversations, and like I said, yes, it's a Manchester United podcast, but we welcome anybody, any fans across the globe, and talk about any subject. But please, guys, please subscribe for future episodes. Put the notifications on, like the episodes as well, please. Share them. Like I says, please give us feedback, give us your thoughts on any of the subjects that we've spoken on today. And we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.